Oh, hello, friends. Perhaps you remember me from previous live streams. My name's Host Eric. You might not recognize me because I've got a cool new hat, which I received in the mail today. It's a official Stetson. It traveled here all the way from France. Thanks, Princess Mom. This is a nice hat. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
It's pretty swank.
it's so swank.
I'm feeling like a behatted fellow. But the thing is, what I wanted, my message here today is this. Self, more acceptance, less improvement. Self-improvement is a fool's errand. Self-acceptance is a good plan. I'm fully inhaterated, I guess you might say. Or my noggin is taking up residence in its summer chapeau.
Yes.
You might say, like royalty in Europe used to do when they go to different parts of the country for different seasons. Well, we aristocracy can't possibly stay here in the city during the summer. It's simply unbearable. My winter estate, my summer estate, my spring estate, and my fall estate. I need 4 estates. But besides that, you're getting me off topic already. I'm trying to say something very important here. Don't try to improve yourself. Just accept yourself. What do you think about that? Huh?
I like that.
Is that crazy talk? Don't try to improve yourself, Eric. But don't make it. You just end up making excuses for your own failure. Well, I mean, the thing is, whether or not you're making excuses for your own failure, or whether or not you're being yourself and somebody else is viewing it as failure and viewing your persistent being of the self as exemplary of you making excuses for failure, is bad. Why are there so many ENFPs in the whole self-help business? Because PE third slot, you know? Like, if you want to know the difference between ENFP third slot TE and ESFP third slot TE, well, you watch the show Baki. ESFPs love arbitrary TE like this. Baki's written by an ESFP, and one of the characters in it has the special ability called Poison Hand, which he acquires by punching his hand like every 30 seconds for 3 days into this poison sand, only dipping it into water every hour until gradually his hand becomes poison hand, and now when he punches people with it, they get poisoned. Well, it's like doing a bunch of steps that require diligence and persistence. It's poison hand. Let me Google. In Baki, how do you get poison hand? Okay. So this is textbook ESFP TE bullshit. Poison hand is a special technique used by Ryuko Yanagi is an extremely dangerous and risky technique due to the deadly and fatal effects that the victim experiences when hit by the technique and the strict and excruciating conditions and steps taken by the user when carrying out that ritual. Description. First, the user has to prepare a special poison compound consisting of various toxic plants and venomous insects. The qualities of the poison and the measurements of the ingredients must be exact. Next, the user pours the poison compound into a large vase full of sand. The poison compound turns the sand into poison sand. The user then takes the hand that they wish to turn poisonous and repeatedly jabs it into the poison sand. The user must dip their hand into the antidote every 7 minutes during the day and every 9 minutes during the night, while still repeatedly jabbing their hand into the poison sand after each detoxification. This pattern must be done for 5 days in a row. It's extremely painful and so unbearable that many would rather cut off their own arm than live with the pain. That's ESFP. Like, if they want to write a cool story that's really great, they're going to have some arbitrary TE nonsense like that. Eric, a YouTuber known as Coach Richie Papa Para made a video about you being an ESFJ mistyped as an ENTP. I don't have time to waste on shit like that. I'm not going to check it out. I've encountered so many of those things before. It seriously is not worth my time. I mean, the thing is, just to meaningfully try to critique me as something other than the ENTP, you got a lot of work to do. I mean, because you're gonna have to show what an actual ENTP looks like. Okay, well, if I'm not an ENTP, then a real ENTP must be more like Mia than me. But I mean, by any consensus understanding of functions at all, do you think you could change yourself from an ENTP to an ENTJ? Of course not. Do I think identity is changeable? It depends what you mean by what kind of identity you're talking about. If you're talking specifically about your typological identity, your cognitive function stack, no, I don't think your cognitive function stack is changeable. I think I've had the same function stack my whole life. Hi, Lijo. The funny thing is, yeah, people always doubt her authenticity. If you're not talking about typology, can you change your identity? Well, I mean, no. I think definitionally, identity is distinct from other things in that it comprises a synergistic whole, a complete whole of things that's beyond the sum of the parts, you know? Yeah, well, according to him, both you and C.S. Joseph are ESFJs mistyped as ENTPs hating on each other because of psychological projection. I mean, I don't think I really hate on him very much. Yeah, but regardless, the thing that's so crazy about that is no matter what you think about me or C.S. Joseph, if you're sane at all, you don't think we're the same type.
That's true.
You know, it's like maybe I'm not the ENTP. Okay, fine. But any sane person can say C.S. Joseph and Eric are definitely different types.
Right.
If you're trying to argue that we're both ESFJs, well, I mean, you can throw rocks against the library window. That's not a good way to read books, you know? Similarly, you can throw out random bullshit. It's not a good way to either get my attention or convince anybody of anything. Okay, well, I mean, there are different affects by different people, but the thing is, it's not just that C.S. Joseph and I have different affects. I mean, any analysis of actual function processes would show that we approach life questions, matters entirely differently through an entirely different frame of reference. The ENTP's TE critic think everyone is stupid. I don't think everybody's stupid. It took me a long time to realize that people didn't even that people actually didn't understand me a lot of times. For a lot of years in my life, when people said they didn't understand me, I thought they were being adversarial and plain dumb. You know what I'm saying. Don't play dumb with me. I just didn't get it that people are very different from each other. Everybody projects themselves onto everybody, So it's like if you're an ESFP, my opinion on C.S. Joseph typing his infant baby is an INTJ. I mean, I would hope he would leave himself some wiggle room there. I think it's conceivable to do typings fairly early. For example, Delilah was pretty clearly an action type of some sort pretty early on. She was very much a squiggler, always wiggling and squiggling and trying to get stuff and, trying to talk and so forth.
Aww.
So, but I mean, I felt like, keep in mind that I wasn't into cognitive functions or typology back when she was a baby. So this is just retrospectively, I'm saying that. I didn't note at the time when she was a baby, oh, she seemed like an action type because I wasn't into cognitive functions. I didn't know anything about them. So, but in retrospect, it seems pretty obvious that she's an action type. When I did learn about cognitive functions, I mistyped her as an ENTP. But, one learns, especially SI types like me, I learn a lot of successful ways of distinguishing between people over time, typing all these different people, asking similar questions to the same people. Asking similar questions to different people, and trying my darndest to explain things in a sensible way. The weird thing is, it's something that just recently occurred to me. I have by far the most data up. I've got lots and lots of typing sessions. You can see what I do, how I type people. You can see me do it over and over and over again. You can evaluate it yourself. You can see if what I'm saying, if my analysis of the typing sessions is consistent with the actual data in the typing sessions. That in fact you see the following kinds of ranges of responses to TI questions or FI questions or whatever. I don't typically think a lot about the empirics of the matter, but it occurs to me that one argument I can make that might be successful in convincing some TE people is, unlike C.S. Joseph or DSP or anybody really, I have all my work up publicly so you can see how I do it. If I type you can ask me questions, you can challenge what I say, you can make me explain things, you can sometimes change my mind even if I missed something, And most importantly, you can see that in every one of these sessions, I'm trying to do analysis of how people actually engage in the process of paying attention rather than some correlate. Now, granted, establishing how one processes a given form of attention or whatever is there's a full case to be made. Some things are correlates you can point to as likely indicators or somewhat indicators. Some things are skills tests that can usually definitively eliminate at least a couple of possible things. So like I can usually eliminate polar and or 1-2 with TI questions. I can say, okay, you're definitely not polar, or okay, you're definitely not polar, and you're definitely not 1 or 2. So you're one of the other slots, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 8. So those are very useful things when you've got something that's binary like that. You can say, okay, this is a definite. I can rely on this. Now, the thing is, you might say, well, how do you know you can rely on it, Eric? Well, I mean, it's as simple as this. When you've done these tests a bunch of times, and you're very disinterested in your considerations of the results and stuff, you realize how much there's deviation from your expectations. So, for example, I used to think the rat test was a good NI test, but it failed to consistently test strong NI, and it failed to consistently test polar NI. And eventually I had to abandon it as an intuition test at all. It's just sort of a general language competency test or something. So what does that tell you? That Eric's doing it wrong because he used a test that wasn't right? No, it's telling you Eric's doing it right because he's testing the tests as he goes and he's able to eliminate certain things, you know? If I've got a shit ton of tests that all seem to line up properly with each other, well, okay, if he gets meow on test A, then I would expect him to get meow on test B and meow on test C and meow on test D, and they all do. And then I've got this one test that is all over the place. Well, obviously it's not a good test. Toss it out, you know? I've been doing that for years now, refining my approach, trying to understand what actually correlates with cognitive function in a certain slot strongly or not, and also trying to figure out what represents an actual application of an attentional manner in real time that I can observe and draw conclusions about and stuff like that. You know, it's definitely still some art as well as science, but the thing is, there is so much data and evidence now piled up in all the typing sessions that for people who are TE and who aren't able or willing to understand that I am exclusively correct because of my TI reasonings, then that's potentially a powerful argument to influence them to think that maybe I'm more legitimate, you know? Because I do have vastly more actual evidence, objective evidence, which is to say evidence anybody can watch and observe and see for themselves and evaluate independently than any other typologist by a long measure. He thinks TE is others' thoughts, NE is others' intentions, and SE is others' experiences. I mean, what? Well, anyway, my point is if you're hearing people talking on the internet and they're having a lot of people here instead of 8 people here, chances are they're telling you what's wrong with you and how to improve yourself or something. It's like there's this horrible, horrible reality of the world which suggests that fundamentally everybody's not good enough and should be constantly trying to improve themselves. There's some sort of like motto sometimes, I try to just get 1% better every day. What? At something. Why? I'm trying to become a high quality person. So are you a low quality person now? I mean, are you improving 1% every day because improving every day is in and of itself a virtue, or because you have deficit areas? If you're directing attention to improving every day, are you concurrently not directing attention towards something else? How about smoking 1 cigarette less per day? How about it? Will you consider that improvement? Maybe you should do that then. I wouldn't consider that improvement for me. From my perspective, my self-improvement is most maximally attained when I am engaged in self-acceptance. Explain the reasoning behind what, though? Give me an example of what I'm going to say. Explain the reasoning behind. Okay, so that's a good question, Boba Fett. What is the self? So, when we talk about cognitive functions or we talk about personality, we necessarily use a metaphor, one of two possible. Oh, okay, cool. I remember now, Rand. Thank you. One of two possible one of two possible ways of metaphoring the self. If you're talking about big five stuff or disorders or things like that, then you're metaphorically speaking about the self as though it were a thing that has attributes. Of course, things that have attributes are objects in space. Now, people are objects in space, so they do have some attributes in that capacity. But when we're talking about their psychology, in psychology, people are often spoken of as though they have attributes, even though that's purely metaphorical. I don't possess conscientiousness, and I don't possess extroversion, and I don't possess any of those things. Instead, my affect could be described by others, or could be presumably measured by a test to, I guess, consensus-based scores about what comprises conscientious behavior, what comprises agreeable behavior, etc. But in cognitive functions, we talk about the self as the thing that executes the function. Now, the important thing to remember here is when we're talking about a cognitive function, we're talking about a function of some kind. If we think about a function in math, it's a process you execute upon two or more objects. So 4 plus 4. The function is make them go together and pile them all up together, like make it be 8. When we're talking about cognitive functions, we're really saying that being encompasses a finite number of functions, just as doing math encompasses a finite number of functions. And okay, so if being encompasses a finite number of functions, just as doing math encompasses a finite number of functions, well, we understand who the agent that executes the function in math is. A person decides to execute a function on 2 or more objects, symbols on a paper or something, to do some math. When we talk about being, the problem is doing math, and most things we talk about are ways of being subjects in the world, right? So it's like we can talk about what you're doing because you're doing something that's makes it visible to other people, commentable upon by other people, and yada yada. But being human is just the same thing as doing math. It's just that being human, it has just like doing math has the part that you can show people when you write it out, the part that you can explain to people, the reasoning behind it. You've also got parts that you know and assume you aren't going to have to explain. Well, why is this shape represent this many things? It's not a question you're really probably prepared to answer, for example. It's just something you expect to not have to worry about. You observe that it's a 4. You don't question it. You don't decide it necessarily, right? You don't do anything necessarily with it. So if we think about being as like math, you recognize that who it is that's executing the functions, well, it's the same person who's doing math, and for the same reason. Because doing math includes being in all those different ways as well. In other words, we can't be human without having a self. The thing is, one of the big arguments that people always seem to get into is this ongoing argument between the binary and non-binary understandings of things. So someone will say, like, you can't put people into these dichotomies. People are both thinking and feeling. People are both intuitive and sensing. People are both NI and SI. Well, I mean, look. A waltz is a waltz, okay? And it's a waltz because it's in 3. And a rock and roll song is in 4, usually. So let's say you've got a waltz and you've got a rock and roll song. You could talk about all the different ways in which they are similar. They've got similar words. They've got a similar sounding singer. They have the same instrumentation. The songs are the same length. They're in the same key. They use the same chords. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how similar this waltz is to this 4 on the floor rock song. One is a waltz and one is not. So it's a great analogy because this is what happens in typology a lot. I'm pointing out that the reason this person is a waltz is because he's in 3. And this other person is saying, but that song's in 4, and this guy, he has the same lyrics as that song. He's got similar vibes, he's got a similar voice, he's got similar instrumentation, all yeah. And of course, I have to just continue to say, you're not getting it. Waltz is determined by whether it's in 3 or 4, not these other things. It's true, maybe, that most waltzes don't have lyrics like death and kill and death and kill and kill and death and kill. You know, it just doesn't seem to go with a waltzing rhythm like, oh, death and kill and death and kill and death. You know. Yes, but if you just listen to the every third beat of the rock song, you can feel like it's in 3. You don't know me. You don't know how I hear that song. I could hear it in 3. Well, no, you can't. It's in 3, it's in 4, one of the two. This song is in 3, maybe more like most songs in 4 than any other song in 3 you can find. It's still a waltz. So the thing is, fundamentally in the world, there are things that are on a spectrum or on a continuum, like, I don't know, manliness. Like, how manly am I? Well, I mean, I'm more manly than some people, and I'm less manly than other people. If I were to say I am 80th percentile manly, that would just be completely arbitrary and bullshit. Right? That's not something that is you can put on a binary. But if I say I'm over 6 feet tall, that's different. That's binary. It's either true or false. And in this case, it's true. So, a lot of trouble that people get in the world is it happens because they want everything to be binary or they want everything to be mushy. And the fact is, some things are mushy and some things aren't. When you have a clear identity to something, that's part of what artistically makes something great. So a song that's like a song like Stacy's Mom, which gets requested frequently by people and just sort of sticks with people and has this kind of weird re-listenability to it. It has such a distinct identity. You can never mistake it for anything else. You can never mistake anything else for it. It's exactly what it is. That's identity. It's not, well, if we just change a few notes here and there, it would be a different song. Well, yeah, just in the sense that if you were to change all your DNA and become a different human being, you'd be a different human being, but that doesn't make any sense, right? And we know that songs work like this in part because there are plenty of kid songs, especially, that have multiple different lyrics to them. For example, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is also A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And 3 blind mice, meow, 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 meow. Nah, 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 nah. That's also hot cross buns, hot cross buns. But we still know it's the same song, right? Because we can tell the melody is the same. It has the same identity. You might try to batter about it and say this is not binary. This is mushy, but you're wrong. It's just holistic. Just because things are synergistic or holistic doesn't mean they're mushy. See what I'm saying? Bushy is fine. I hear you're a bushy fellow, Chris Siak. I like my men, like my wilderness. Bushy. How does it say filled with bushes? I guess the reality would be if I were going to make that analogy, I would have to like my men, like my wilderness, forested. But I don't really know any forested men. Maybe that's why I'm not a homosexual.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
Oh, Tantacruel is a popular content creator with a video about children's music you might find interesting, or other content. IHP person, I reckon. Oh, the kind of things I'm interested in watching are not the kind of things I make. That's the reality. What do Rachel and I like to watch? Well, of late we've been watching World Chase Tag, which is just fantastic.
Yes.
Very fun to watch. I highly recommend it.
That goes under sports. I think we can, in general, say that we like to watch sports together.
Yeah.
Fantasy, anime.
Well, I'm talking about specifically on YouTube.
Oh.
So we've been watching Drunk History.
Drunk History, yes. That's been our... So, World Chase Tag, Drunk History.
We watched the dodgeball game.
Mm-hmm.
We watched a little bit of a... What's that?
Kabaddi.
Kabaddi tournament or Kabaddi contest. I will put the link to World Chase Tag because I'm telling you, if you're like me, you're going to find yourself kind of hooked on this shit right away. Each match is 20 seconds, okay? And basically, there's these bunch of obstacles, but it's a fairly small square. And a guy tries to run away from the other guy for 20 seconds. And it's exciting. It's like, he's about to get him. You're like, oh, no! It's like 18.5, 19 seconds. And he's like, dives and just grazes his shirt. And you're like, oh! You can only score a point when you evade successfully for 20 seconds. It's hard to evade. There's 16 total chases in a match, right? And Rachel and I've seen a number of them that ended up like 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, something like that.
Yeah.
So there's not usually the person gets caught, right? But that's kind of what makes it exciting, because when they are getting away, and sometimes it's like you have to avoid multiple dives, like this one. It's basically kind of a parkour sport, I guess. But it doesn't really feel like parkour. It just feels like super fun chase.
Yeah, people who would be good at dodging and running. It's kind of like because like the Hollywood team, right?
Hollywood Freerunners, yeah.
Yeah, they compose of like a lot of stuntmen.
Right.
So it's just kind of like overall like speed and agility is something that makes it you good at World Chase Tag. A person good at World Chase Tag.
Yeah. But
it's so entertaining.
It's so entertaining to watch. Just like watch a match or so, and you'll be like, "Damn, that's pretty fun to watch."
It really is fun. And like sometimes you can't tell if a person's like touched or not, and they have to review it. And the commentary is so colorful too. Like, they really like it. It makes it. You really see how being the evader is very difficult. Like, you would think that chasing, like running away from someone would be easy, but it's not.
There's a lot of obstacles. Sometimes people go smack right into like a bar or something too.
Yeah.
But the other thing I watch, I watch this without Rachel if she's gone to bed. But sometimes when she's here, I'll watch it too. Is boxing highlights. I like to look at old fights from a long time ago that are famous for being particularly excellent fights and checking them out. I also like to watch brand new fights that I don't know anything about that like just came out, because there's this channel, like I think it's called DNZ or something like that. It's a channel that produces the Jake Paul and Logan Paul boxing matches, but they also have regular boxing matches. It was the network that produced the boxing matches, that Albanian guy with the funny hat that I made fun of, that I got my world record thumbs downs on. Mm-hmm. As I angered all of Albania. Mm-hmm. Do I think INFJ and ISTP follow after the NTPs as the type most suited to metaphysics? Categorizing definitions, functions, objects, properties, etc. I think INFJ followed probably by ESTP. I think ESTP is a little bit better at it because they got a little bit more expert intuition in the mix. The day I insulted Albania. That was a dark day in Eastern Europe, let me tell you. A dark day.
Pretty great discovery, though, for us.
Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck?
It remembers me too. We were like, because he like wore it right after the match. Like, right after the match, he put that hat on, and we were both like looking at each other like, what?
Yeah, it's just like, what is this he's wearing?
It didn't make sense. So.
Yeah, where did all those commenters even come from? Like a hidden subcommunity of Albanian hat defense squad. Yeah, it's the Mossad of Albania, but they only care about their hats. They're not really interested in terrorists and stuff like that. Mm. Well, I put some more cement on the tree, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to kill that nasty old fungus.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
It's persistent as a persimmon in Persia. And that's pretty persistent.
That is.
Sometimes I watch MMA stuff, but I prefer watching boxing to MMA for some reason. I think it's because MMA it gets a little brutal sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I don't like it when they knock a guy out, he's going down, And then before the ref can get in there and take him off him, he goes and pounds him in the face again. You know, I don't like that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Even though I generally like combat sports, so I don't know what kind of hypocrisy is there, but I just don't like it once because I've seen plenty of MMA fights where the guy, you can tell when someone's knocked out when they go like this and they're all rigid. Then that's that's some real knockout, you know, when somebody goes all like a board. Um, and when you can see it happen, and then he's falling to the ground, and the ref's scurrying over there, but the guy, you know, he's trained to go until the ref stops him, and so he gets down on the ground and pound, and this defenseless guy who's already knocked out gets just bam in the face until the ref gets in there and pushes him off. You know, that tends to make me feel uncomfortable because it's like I don't want to see defenseless people getting hit. Boxing, I'm much more likely to be mad because they stop it too soon. So it's not like boxing's perfect. I don't like it when boxing stops it without a good enough reason. Knock the guy out, you know, let him knock the guy out. Don't then jump on him and pound on him on the ground. But I like to see him. I like to see him finish him off, unless he's really getting abused. Too bad, you know.
I'd like to see a hockey game with you. I think you would enjoy it because it gets kind of. It's not. It's a heavy contact sport. Heavy.
I was just reading yesterday, I think, about this guy who plays for the Capitals, who's, um, I guess, just like he racks up the suspensions
Really?
and majors and misconducts and stuff like that,
no,
right?
It's so bad.
And the New York, I don't remember if it was the Islanders or the Rangers, one of their coaches said about that player the other night that he really crossed the line and somebody needs to do something about this. And because I guess one of the New York players got injured by his dirty play. So, you know, it's like, that's real, like, you get some real thugs in hockey, I think.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. If you're not missing some teeth in hockey, you're not a real hockey player.
Mm.
It's brutal. I mean,
Don't you think that Wayne Gretzky somehow managed to avoid getting hit?
although I'm exaggerating a little bit. Yes, I do. He was very offensive more than defensive. He was a great player.
He was slippery.
He was so good. I hope there's a drunk history on him. There was some sort of. He would make for a great drunk history. I think he was slick, like you said.
Rachel and I were discussing the other night, and we were in the car, and I think a good idea for a show would be called Meth History. And you get some people who've never done meth before, and you get them like have them smoke a bunch of it, like, completely thwacked out, and then have them tell you the story that they prepared to tell you. You know.
Oh my gosh.
That would be interesting.
Imagine me. I don't think I would be able to keep a straight linear story. Or maybe it'd be the most epic story I've ever told in my life. Who knows?
I don't really think I would encourage you to be a contestant on Meth History.
Thank you. I'm not really interested. I'm just.
Ideally, we'd include contestants that I don't care about. Seth Rogen, he can go on Meth History. He seems like he's on it already with his incessant extroversion.
Yeah. Borat would be a good one on there too. You might already be on meth. No.
He's just an EP, you know.
Yeah, I feel he's like probably one of those guys who like probably like doesn't even drink. Not that sounds mean, but like he seems like a guy who doesn't do any sort of drugs at all. Like
his feelings are all the drugs he needs.
His characters are like all the drugs he needs.
When you're an ENFP, your feelings are all the drugs you need. According to Aristotle, the soul is not a distinctive substance, thus it cannot be separated from the body. Well, that's true. The whole point about being a human being is that we are both physical objects and metaphysical agents. That's what it means to be a sentient being. Yes, meth is a form of speed. Does one get more talkative or less talkative? Well, it depends how much you do. And I agree with you, Rain. I agree with you. Your understanding of it is more correct than the way I have talked about it heretofore. I was wrong about that. What meth does to you, it really depends on who you are, how much you do, what you expect, a lot of things. How long you've been awake. So, it doesn't necessarily make people more talkative, although it can. I think it really depends on, I guess, your dominant function. I'm not sure.
I feel like ENTPs insides are like rock solid compared to a lot of people's.
Rashes, hair fall, weight loss, your teeth fall out. What's that? You're referring to meth? I mean, I was a meth addict for a good few years there. Maybe 4 years almost. Back in the early 2000s. I didn't get the rashes thing. I didn't get the picking at myself or hair falling out. I didn't get the paranoia. I did lose some weight. I did have bad dental hygiene. My teeth were already shit before I started doing it anyway. Well, I mean, I was pretty hardcore Boba Fett. I mean, granted I didn't shoot it. So if you shoot it, that's most hardcore. I never shot it. But I did a lot of it for a long time. And you can't sustain it indefinitely. It's just too wild a ride,
I think that's the consensus for many people who find themselves in help with like being addicted to meth, that the highs is not you can't sustain it. It's not sustainable.
not really tempted by meth. For instance, Mom, you say, do you find talking about, how do you remember why you got off of doing that? No. I don't. I'm not attracted to it. At this point in my life, I just can't handle drugs the way I used to. I need to sleep. I need to eat. I need to bathe. I need to, not get my feet all swollen from sitting in one place forever. But Aristotle, I mean, Socrates is generally tied to the ENTP. How faithfully Aristotle related Socrates' shit is somewhat open question, I think. So if Aristotle really put a lot of his own shit into it when talking about Socrates anyway, then I would guess he's an ENTP. But if he's really being faithful to sort of relating what Socrates said, then I guess he could be something else. You know what, Boba Fett? One time, Aristotle shoved his ass in Socrates' face, and he said, "Get a load of the platonic form of my ass in your face, motherfucker." Like that. That's how they used to insult each other back in ancient Greece.
WFP education.
Your mom is a platonic form of cock wallet.
Oh!
That's something else they used to say back in ancient Greece. I just heard that expression recently on a television show. Cock wallet.
What show was that?
Lucifer, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah. Plato had some really stupid ideas. Well, he did spend most of his later years trying to breed a horse with a cow. He wanted to make something that he could both ride and get better tasting milk from. He was trying to get all horse except cow's milk out of it. Needless to say, it didn't work.
Yeah, I don't really know. So many horse cows.
He was going to call it a how. But he never successfully made one. He was kind of the Elon Musk of his time. Except Only if to be more like Elon Musk this time, he would need to have bred 2 horses to make a third horse, put something sparkly on it, and call it a new idea.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. Did Plato say that? Fiak? I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to do them as well. Plato. You're saying Plato's responsible for that quote? I am pretty sure he's not responsible for that quote. People are too dumb to make a republic work? All right. Well, maybe we go back to just a public then.
Mm.
Or if republicing's not adequate, maybe we can go to a republic.
Ooh, a republic.
Mm-hmm.
You're so handsome.
Thanks, darling.
You're welcome.
You're so beautiful with beauties.
Oh, thank you.
I feel wonder in my heart.
Oh. I love his words.
He classified humans as featherless birds. That's not a bad classification. I mean, I lay eggs.
See? All the time.
It's like one of these things. Like people assume so much, you know. That's the risk, and that's when you start triggering. You just assume I'm not an egg layer, but I am. Rachel and I frequently have them for breakfast. I lay chicken eggs. I mean, I don't know what else to call them. They're obviously not chicken eggs, but they look and taste exactly like chicken eggs.
Yeah. Over hard.
Mm-hmm. Of course, occasionally one comes out fertilized, and in the middle of the yolk, there is a little human fetus. But we just throw those ones out. Ew! It's fertilized. Got a little baby in there. Here, I'm gonna bring the trash can over. What happens when you get an ENFJ who is emphasizing TI and an INTP who emphasizes FE in a relationship? What do you think? I think both people are trying too hard. They won't possibly sustain this non-actual self over time. Are you familiar with Kant? Because be careful with pronunciation, cause you two be listening. Yes, I'm familiar with Kant, Immanuel Kant, wonderful Kant, fabulous Kant. What with his deontological imperative and his what you call it? His admonition that we all treat each other like ends in itself instead of like means to an end. I'm down with your Kant.
Want to see this picture of PP being mad at me last night? Isn't that such a bad face? You're not happy.
Yeah, you're not supposed to put it on there quickly. What was I saying? Something really important.
Oh man. I don't need to be the interrupter.
Immanuel Kant. Oh my God, she is such an Immanuel Kant. Maybe we all die in a few years because some shit no one took a closer look at what? A closer look at cereal? I don't think cereal is going to kill you. The good news is, diet's almost entirely irrelevant to health. A lot of people mistakenly believe there's some sort of connection. Yeah, I think Kant's pretty correct too. On the correctness scale of 1 to correct, he's towards correct. He's a lot more towards correct than he is away from correct. I mean, basically, the thing about Kant is he validates within his frame, and to the extent that he ceases to validate, it's a different frame. Not cereal, but the sugar, the colorful pictures, the advertising, the gullible masses choking down this poison, mass-produced poison. There's nothing raw in there. There's nothing organic in there. It's all processed with preservatives, everything.
I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah, sounds terrible. When you speak in alarmist fashions about things, they sound terrible.
Yeah.
Of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with cereal or anything else like that. It's ridiculous. Now, I want to concede. There was a time, the Wild West of trying shit out, back in the day, when they thought, here's a good idea. Let's sell radium drinks. You know, it's like water with some radium in it. Why not? It's radioactive. Maybe it gives you powers or something. Well, needless to say, it gave people the power of cancer. And then they stopped selling the radium drinks, you know. So I agree. If we lived back in the day, back in the Wild West of people trying random shit out, your phone's right there.
Oh, no, I'm not looking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then you want to be a little bit careful. We are not in that day. We are in a very litigious age. Corporations want to avoid liability with all of their might. So, hip hip hooray. Do types who are SE users have higher sex drive than SI users? Is that baloney? I don't know. I would suspect that I have about medium sex drive for my age, about average probably. Maybe a little bit more appetite than average for a 50-year-old. But you know, of course, I'm in perfectly good health. Like, in other words, I'm not overweight, and I don't have any medical problems that affect me in that area. So a lot of people my age maybe do, to some extent. But I don't think my sex drive has changed much over the years. I think it's always been about what it is now. In fact, if anything, it may be more now than it used to be. Also, why is you only live once mentality a thing? Isn't it precisely because you only live once that you shouldn't do a backflip on a roller coaster? Well, you only live once is a good thing to remember. To the extent that it prompts you to do a backflip on a roller coaster, just means you're an idiot. I mean, that's not my takeaway from You Only Live Once. Is therefore do a backflip on a roller coaster. It is often invoked in that fashion, but You Only Live Once, to me, makes me think, boy, I guess I should be more purposeful. But, that's the title of this live stream. Self-acceptance or self-improvement. Can you have both?
Well, from what I've read, ENTPs like the idea of self-improvement, or at least like to...
I like to get better at stuff.
Better. Yeah, take the mistake and get better.
But getting better at stuff is not quite the same thing as self-improvement. So I like to get better at stuff like get better at playing the guitar, get better at typing people, get better at like teaching, maybe. Things that are, I guess, unmasterable areas of performance or something. I don't like to have to perform. At least I don't like to be under scrutiny to perform any kind of physical stuff. Like, I don't want to have to run this quarter mile in this many seconds, or else I'll fail my PE test. It's like, fortunately, those things were super easy usually. But it's like I hated the idea of having to do this, but I always found it I could easily pass the minimum thing. But I never tried to do well. You have to do this many meows. Did I get that many? Okay, I'm done. I don't like that. You have to go jog this many times around the track in this many minutes. Okay, did I finish yet? Okay. Now, what would you consider self-improvement? Well, there's various kinds of self-improvement. Some people try to do self-improvement physically. I just say they work out, maybe they train for a marathon, they work up towards climbing Mount Everest, or they just maybe even staying fit is in a way their form of self-improvement. Like I go play basketball 3 days a week now. I used to only play 2. I've lost 20 pounds. Like my dad has that shit going on all the time. He's lost some weight, and when I asked him the other day if he wanted me to barbecue stuff for him too, he said, no, I'm still watching my weight, son. Okay. How might ENFJs find a solid self-concept? Also, why do they not have a solid self-concept? Well, the reason they might not have solid self-concept is because they're SI polar. So they don't have any sense of knowing from their own experience or retaining any of the high resolution data. High resolution data being things like smells and appearance of a place and yiggity yaw. How might they find a solid self-concept? I mean, they need to metacognate. They are metaphysicians, after all. They're one of four types that's got their first two functions are communicative functions rather than having an experiential function in there somewhere. So it's important for them to map it out, understand, be able to recognize in themselves when and how they're attending by this modality, when and how they might potentially attend via a different modality, um, to get some sort of negative space sense of what they're lacking as well, which is something I'm trying to do a lot of. I'm trying to get a sense of what it really means to be FI polar. Like, to be FI polar means
Sorry.
to be FI blind, but not to have lost your sight, right? It's something that I've been my whole life. So I'm trying to find out and understand what it means, what it is that I'm actually lacking, uh, what it would be like to be able to see. It's a hard thing to possibly even conceptualize, but because I'm such a map-oriented type, and because I'm studying cognitive functions for such a long time, I'm metaphysicians. I call them. I meant meta-analysts. My bad. Is that bipolar the cry after sex type? Maybe if bipolar isn't very conscious or aware about their own bad feelings, what they want or need, how to feel better, or even that they're feeling bad. FI polar is most likely to attribute whatever they're feeling to something external to them. Or something implicit to them, even like I'm sad because my life's bad. Oh wait, I'm just hungry. Or I'm sad because you're being mean. Oh wait, I'm just hungry. The thing is, I'm much more likely to do the former than the latter because I tend to not get the idea that other people. Until my last relationship, I never really learned that other people could hurt your feelings. Even though I had my feelings hurt plenty of times, I always assumed it was my fault that my feelings got hurt because if I wasn't either vulnerable in some way that I shouldn't be, or being a little bitch or something, then I wouldn't have gotten my feelings hurt, right? It's a strange kind of ignorance. Now I recognize that yes, people can hurt my feelings sometimes, and I can hurt other people's feelings, and it means something to do that. I can recognize it. I know what it feels like in my chestal area. It feels like, oh. I meant to say meta-analyst, Colin. Sorry, my bad. I said metaphysician. I meant to say meta-analyst. Metaphysician is what I call myself. See, if you're in need of a doctor, but not for any kind of physical or mental problem, or for a metaphysical problem, I'm your guy. I'm a metaphysician. Rain, can you see, Eric, can you see my comment above, which tells you to see the comment before? Eric says my comment before the previous one sounds like bad NI and bad SE. Comment before the previous one? I don't recognize futures as real. I can't truly acknowledge that I'm going to die or that my essay is due in 2 weeks, so I just procrastinated away. Yeah, I know they're real, but they seem distant and unreal, so they aren't actually able to motivate me. I mean, it sounds like bad SE. You know, here's what I would say if you would ask me, like, what makes me procrastinate? Let's say I have something I know I have to have done in 2 weeks. Well, not wanting to do it. No, I'm a metaphysician, right? It means I'm a doctor of you and your metaphysics, okay? I'm here to help you be whole. Listen, Rain, you need to climb into your spiritual chrysalis and follow my doctorly instructions, and one day you'll emerge from your chrysalis as a beautiful, enlightened butterfly like me. Wouldn't you like that? You're into being a butterfly, right? I'm pretty sure it was Rain who was saying he was into that. Okay, ENFJs are meta-analysts, which means they've got FE first, then NI. Those are two metaphysical functions, communication functions. Your communicative functions are FE, TI, NI, NE. So if you've got those two in some combination first, then you are a meta-analyst. That includes INTP, TINE, ENTP, NETI, INFJ, NIFE, and ENFJ, FENI. Rain, listen. You are just clinging to your old self. You just need to let go of the past, okay? Your past is your rotten caterpillar, primitive, unenlightened self. Once you go through Dr. Eric's self-expanding improvement symposium, it turns you from a crawling cub into a sprinting wolf. Then, and only then, will you know the true meaning of enlightenment like me. Okay, I want to point something out. How do you think I got this hat? I manifested it. I don't even remember saying it, but obviously earlier I must have said, I'm going to get a cool hat in the mail today. And boom. Why? It's all about your attitude. As long as you have a positive enough attitude, everything's possible and certain. Being a mantis strip would be cool. What does the best compatibilities for ENFJ male look like? ISTP chick. ISTP chick. I typed one just the other day. She was an ISTP chick, but she's married, so she's off the market.
But that's the general type of person.
You should watch that video so you can see what ISTP chick looks like. I forget what her name was.
What was her interest? What did she like to do?
She had a lot of animals that she had to take care of.
Did you like?
She had animals that she
Did you like
took care of.
take care of animals? My uncle used to really like.
She did the books for her husband's business.
So you said actually, which I think is accurate, how the ESTP, ISTP would be the couple at Laughlin.
They were Laughlin people, yes. The ISTP lady was a Laughlin people.
Yeah, so that's like a general idea of like where you could meet someone who's an ISTP at like a smaller kind of casino.
Listen, Rain doesn't know about us, Rachel. Rain points out humans can see 3 main colors, butterflies see 4 main colors, mantis shrimp see 17 main colors. But Rachel and I have worked out a system to combine our eyes, so together we see 38 main colors. We have a whole set of words for them that you've never even heard before.
Yeah.
You know, we have your normal, your green, red, yellow, blue, but we've also got gran, and there's hua. It's kind of a, yeah, I can't even explain it because you don't see it.
You can't forget cerulean.
Cerulean, yeah. We got cerulean as one of our colors.
Yeah.
All you need is to believe in yourself with all of your heart, and everything you wish will come true. Okay, you're just not manifesting hard enough. What do you want, Colin Bowles? Tell me, what do you really, really want in life? Tell me now. What do you really want? What are you really looking for in life? What is your dream? We can get away with Michael Jackson? Okay. He's dead, you know. Colors are like dimensions. Imagine a 13th dimension. I've been imagining 13th dimension all day.
Oh.
I started imagining it right after I imagined the 12th dimension. Naturally, that's what you do. I stopped at 13 because everybody knows once you go into the 14th dimension, there's no coming back. It's like Inception forever. That's why I always stop at the 13th dimension.
That's cool. What did you see there?
Well, it's mostly an olfactory dimension. It's all smells.
All smells.
All smells, yeah. Some of them are quite acrid, though. So you got to be careful in the 13th dimension. Billie Jean is not my lover, okay? And the kid is not my son, okay?
You think they get the point?
Yeah, I've been talking about it for years now.
Yeah. It's almost as old as me.
You know, it's also not the case that I met a girl named Nikki. I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. That never happened to me. People always put that on me. That's Prince.
They do.
That's Prince. That's not me. I'm actually really, really good at the moonwalk, but I can only do it on the moon. So, you know, next time I'm there.
Unless you could get NASA to fund it.
If NASA could just bring me a couple of moon rocks, I could probably moonwalk on them. But, you know, it is more difficult with gravity. I've just found, you know, with a small gravity on the moon, you can really moonwalk your ass off. Ow! Or you can say it like that. You can be bad, so bad you know it. You know my world, girl.
I like that. Your spirit people are Michael Jackson and Prince. They're so similar. I remember going to a Michael Jackson concert. Like,
ew. It's just, I don't know.
Gyrations.
He doesn't really have very many good songs, does he? He's got Thriller. He's got Billie Jean.
Yeah.
He's got I'm Bad.
Don't stop.
I'm Bad.
Get enough.
Get enough.
I like actually.
That's
like
a good
song.
one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. You know, You really want to have a life fully of friends, intellectually stimulate you, work together for something meaningful, creative, and loyal, interact with God as a friend, and type people well to help. That's more than one wish. Okay. You need to narrow your thesis, Colin. All right. You want to have a stimulating life, intellectually stimulating, huh? You know what? Somebody should make like a philosopher's tender where it's gender neutral. You put on there, like uh, utilitarian leaning, rule consequentialist or whatever. And then you find out if you decide whether you want to go have coffee and yell at the other person, in which case you find somebody that you really disagree with, or whether you want to go have a pleasant conversation in which you find somebody you agree with a lot, and you go have coffee and you talk about normative frameworks.
Normative frameworks.
Utilitarianism doesn't even function as a framework. Look, you're not being realistic. The fact is, people have to make decisions with incomplete information all the time. That doesn't mean we need to make our moral decisions on our presumed outcomes. Then that's when the slap fight starts. That's my dream, Colin. That's my dream. My dream is for you to start up the philosopher's tender and for me to meet up with a rule consequentialist and get into a slap fight. Can you fulfill my dream? Oh, Colin, fulfill my dream. I'm going to have to leave you right now because I've got a typing and how I've got to say what type they are and how they are a thing and then. Okay? So see you later, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, beautiful Duang. I'm sorry I'm leaving right now, though. You can't look at my beauty for much longer. Look at this hat, though. Ooh la la. Look at that part.
So classy.
That is classy as F. If I wear it in the middle, it makes it look like a girl's hat.
It does look like a suffragette hat.
Mm-hmm. We will get the vote today, tomorrow, or someday. Despite the lack of penis between our legs, we too have opinions. I'm Susan B. Anthony.
Award-winning performance.